Obviously, an incident like this, when there's shots fired at a children's hospital, a community-wide concern, I think it's important to at least let the community know some basics, as soon as possible. I'm experienced in how to handle these situations while protecting the investigation. I still believe that the community has a need to know early on some of the things that transpired here this afternoon. We have primary jurisdiction here, policing jurisdiction at the medical complex. This is a joint investigation with the Milwaukee Police Department right now. About 11:59 a.m., a call came into our dispatch of an active shooter at Children's Hospital. Squads arrived, and what we learned was that Milwaukee police officers were here conducting a warrant pickup. A guy who they got information the guy was wanted on a warrant, a felon in possession of a firearm, that he was here at the hospital. They proceeded to the neonatal progressive care unit on the 7th floor of Children's Hospital. It's where children who are sick and infants that need extreme care are taken care of. The officers identified the individual who was holding his baby, or holding a baby at the time. They informed him, after identifying he was under arrest, he put the baby down and appeared to want to cooperate in being taken into custody. He then fled down the hallway, and while fleeing, produced a handgun, and the officers were in pursuit. He turned around several times with that handgun in his hand, and the officers fired several shots, striking the suspect. The suspect is being treated at Freighter right now as we speak. The baby's fine. The mother, who was here as well, is fine. No hospital personnel have been injured in this incident, and later on, as we learn more, and as the Milwaukee Police Department, they'll probably do the follow-up interviews with you, but then they'll release what they want to release about the officers and maybe more about the suspect.
Any thoughts on the appropriateness of trying to get a guy wanted a warrant in a neonatal unit? I mean, the potential here could have been much, much worse.
Well, it's too early now to be, second-guessing that sort of thing. These are dynamic situations. We just talked this morning about our warrant Operation Manhunt, the same type thing. And so I'm not going to get into second-guessing until I know more, and I just don't know that at this time. I'll tell you a better question, though. What's this idiot doing in a neonatal care unit with a handgun?
Is there any way of screening that out? I mean, he was able to carry a gun into the hospital?
Well, this hospital doesn't have any sort of magnetometers, or they don't screen people to come in. I'm not going to suggest that. That's something for hospital security at this point. Knowing what they know now, we can second guess forever. And I don't think that they should overreact and all of a sudden put up magnetometers and screen everybody for weapons, like they do at airports. That's something that Children's Hospital security and administration is going to have to assess. That's further down the line.
In the process of this man's escape,
Sorry.
Do we know how many shots were fired by the suspect?
I do, but I'm not going to release that record.
What is the relationship between the suspect and that baby?
We don't know.
in the process of this man's escape, was anybody else harmed?
No.
Can you tell us what the
Officers are fine.
Was like? Were there patients? Were there other doctors, nurses?
That gets into particulars that I think follow-up interview with the media can be revealed.
Sheriff, the suspect, you said he's a felon in possession. He was running on a felon in possession thing. What was he a felon for? Do you know? Anything more about his record?
That I don't know. No.
Do you know how many times he was struck? Oh, somebody asked him. Sorry.
Age? City of Milwaukee?
City of Milwaukee officers involved.
No, I'm sorry, about the suspect.
The suspect? No, not at this time.
Male.
Can you say how many people were in the vicinity of the incident when it occurred? Employees, patients, etc.?
I don't want to get into that right now. Okay, this investigation is still new. Like I said, most people probably wouldn't have come out and told you anything for a couple hours, but I believe it's important when people hear on the news a shooting at Children's Hospital, this community has a need to know what the heck is going on out there, what happened. So I thought it's important to come out and give you some preliminary information as to what happened. More, the questions you're asking are valid, but that's not what the purpose of an initial briefing is.
Any further threat to anyone at the moment? You
No,
think this is
suspect's in custody. His weapon has been recovered.
Is the hospital on lockdown still?
Yes.
Why? I mean, if he's in custody and there's no further threat, why is it still on lockdown?
Crime scene right now. Okay, the 7th floor is. I don't know about the rest of the hospital, but the neonatal progressive care unit, it's on lockdown because it's a crime scene.
danger is
But-
over?
What kind of weapon he had, sir? What kind of weapon did the suspect have?
A handgun.
Do you know what kind?
I do, but I'm not going to release that at this time.
And to
But
be
the
clear,
danger is
Sheriff,
gone.
At this point.
From this incident, yes.
Is the
Suspect in custody, gun recovered. Officers are fine. Baby's fine. Mom's fine. Hospital personnel are fine.
Any idea how long the lockdown will last?
No.
Is the suspect expected to survive life-threatening injuries?
It's a medical question. It's being treated. Know a little bit more, but I don't want to get into that this time.
And one more opportunity just to go back to do warrants get executed at hospitals routinely? I mean, and I'm just asking you, obviously you do this a lot, so what would the protocol be in a scenario like that, typically?
Well, warrants are executed everywhere. And there's
I guess my
the
point is
cops
this
are-
is a guy they knew had a gun, because they wanted him for having a gun.
well, they didn't know that he was armed today.
Well, what do you
He had a
think
warrant
about
for
that?
felon in possession of a firearm. I'm not going to get into making judgment calls about what the officers did today. The officers will be debriefed, and part of that debriefing and critiquing of it will be the methods used. But I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's fair. And
But you can understand why the public would wonder why cops
Sure.
would come to a neonatal unit looking for a guy who carries a gun.
well, they didn't know that he was armed today. They knew he had a warrant for felon in possession of a firearm.
But this is a guy who's violating the law by carrying a gun. I mean,
What would you suggest they do?
well, I'm asking you. But they could have waited for him to come out, or I mean,
in Monday morning quarterbacking, they could have done a number of things. And I'm not saying that any of the things that you're suggesting wouldn't have been another option. But at some point, the officers assess the situation. They make determinations. These things rapidly evolve. And you go and do, in your best judgment, what you think is necessary to get these violent individuals in custody. And it doesn't always go according to Hoyle. Like I said, when he was first approached, he put the baby down and he acted as if he was going to go along peacefully. And it wasn't until a couple seconds later that he bolted. All right. So I know what it's like out on the street. I've been out there, still out there. Cops got a tough job, and these are valid questions. Could they have done this? Should they have done that? Very valid, but this isn't the time for that. It really isn't. Here's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that the guy's in custody. I'm concerned that the baby's fine. I'm concerned that the mom is fine. I'm concerned that the hospital personnel are fine. And what I mean by that, obviously there's some trauma involved here for the hospital personnel. But I'm talking about, the physical injury. And I'm concerned and relieved that the officers are fine. That's what's first and foremost. Many of the questions you're asking are what an investigation is about, and that will take place. It's being done right now. People are being debriefed. And then some of those things, will be answered, and some of those things will come to light. We critique all these situations, and maybe from it, policies,
investigation.
options, trainings will be adjusted. I don't know, but it's just too early to do that right now.
but will your agency be investigating the appropriateness of this action today, or will the MPD be investigating itself?
No, MPD will. MPD will be doing
and
it.
what is
The
your
fact
thought
that
about the
he was
appropriateness of
in
that?
the hospital with a weapon would suggest
Wait.
he was not screened.
Wait. I'm sorry. She was still in the middle of her.
Yeah, I just want to know what you think about the appropriateness of an agency investigating itself in a situation like this.
Again, now we're getting into the weeds, and I tried to come out here and let you know what I felt you had a need to know, so that you could let the community know that the shooting at Children's Hospital, to the best of our hope, turned out okay with a bad situation. It wasn't made worse, and that everybody's okay. and all this other stuff.
Well, you can understand the community would be concerned that this be investigated appropriately because someone made a decision to go find a guy with a gun, you know, in a neonatal unit.
All right, but not knowing all of the information that they had, I can't make that judgment call to say, you know, what about the appropriateness of this, and what about the appropriateness of the Milwaukee Police Department investigating their own. Those are different questions that have nothing to do with what happened today, and I want to stay focused on this incident and what happened today.
Going back to the story and what happened today for clarification, was this man able to fire any shots at the officers? From what you've been told.
I don't want to get into that.
Well, you said
So we
shots
don't know?
were fired, though, right?
Shots were fired.
In what condition is the suspect in now?
Yeah, that's a medical condition, and maybe the hospital can.
And to my question,
you know.
Sheriff, it would suggest that he went through and got in the hospital armed with a weapon. That would suggest there were no security safeguards. Is that the fact?
Well, I don't know that there were no security safeguards. They don't have magnetometers screening
That
people
was
for
my
weapons out here. I mean, at Children's anyway.
Is there a helpline
That's
or a hotline if there's a patient, say a family member is concerned about a patient, can they call or what should
Just
they
call Children's Hospital, the switchboard, whatever, and they'll be able to direct.
do? Is Frederick still in lockdown or is it just the Children's Hospital that's still in lockdown?
Children's.
Okay, thank you.
Was Freighter
there
on
any-
lockdown as well?
I don't know.
Is there
Okay.
any concern that the investigation is going to lock off parts of the neonatal unit that nurses are going to need to take care of patients?
No. There's no concern about that.
So babies will be cared for.
It's our way to. That supersedes our investigation. Okay. But
how-
we know how to handle this. We know.
How close to the babies
I don't.
were the shots fired?
I'm not going to get into that.
Do you know? I mean, have they figured that? I mean, obviously
Not
somebody.
in terms
but-
of feet, meters, inches. No, I don't.
Well, I mean,
have
was it
that.
feet? Was it yards? Was it, the other end of the floor?
I don't want to get into that. Okay, this thing is still ongoing, and that will be. It should be anyway revealed at a follow-up news conference, because there are some unanswered questions here that you and the community need. But this is just the initial briefing. Excuse me, and I want to remind people that the first facts are sometimes subject to change. So this is an initial briefing. These other questions you have, you can ask. Probably Chief Flynn will do a news conference. You can ask him all those
Is he here?
questions.
Have you seen him?
He was on his way. He's on his way.
Sheriff, so what's your message to people coming to work tomorrow? Doctors, nurses, should they feel safe?
Yes. Yes. We don't want to overreact to these situations. This is not a situation where a guy came here with a gun looking to shoot somebody. And thank God for that. And that
Do we
you-
know that, though?
I don't know what you know. You said, do we know that? Yeah.
You said before that people should arm themselves because there's a delay in calling 911.
I never said people should arm themselves. Okay. Now we're getting off into the weeds again. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm just wondering if you're
Thanks.
suggesting that nurses that
Suggesting anything, right? And I never suggested anybody arm themselves. Okay, I think you know that.
We'll come back. We'll let you know.